A very good evening and welcome to Eswatini TV's 8 p.m. news broadcast. My name is Nondobego Ntsapkelogo. Let's take a look at tonight's headlines. Hilton Garden Inn and Royal Villas hotels have been awarded with Safe Travels certificates respectively. 58 people have been diagnosed with malaria since July 2020 to date. The validity of COVID-19 results for people who wish to travel to South Africa is now 14 days. The news in detail. The Minister of Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Moses Vilagati, has awarded Hilton Garden Inn Hotel and the Royal Villas Hotels with Safe Travel certificates respectively. This means these two hotels comply with the COVID-19 guidelines set by the country and the World Health Organization respectively.
When the Minister of Tourism and Environmental Authority, Moses Vilagati, was awarding the Safe Travel certificates from the World Travel and Tourism Council to Hilton Garden Inn Hotel and Royal Villas Hotel, he said the country is among the first sub-Saharan countries to be given these certificates. Minister Vilagati urges the two hotels to continue adhering to COVID-19 regulations even after getting the certificates.
Giving you this term, I'm saying to people out there, this is the best place to be. I wouldn't like tomorrow to get a call. Hey, why were you standing there? This is what I got. So now the pressure is on you to make sure that you and your team and your staff, I'm happy that they are here, to go for the greater heights. But because of the good history that we know this place to be, we're happy that there is assurance that indeed you will live up to the expectation.
The two hotels' chief executive officers thanked the minister for the certificates and says the tourism industry is slowly getting back to normal.
Safe travel certification gives not only a surety to the locals but to the international guests or visitors as well. Therefore, it's a huge achievement for Hilton Garden Inn Baban.
It is encouraging, the hope is alive. At first we weren't sure will it affect, but we have definitely seen an increase. Nowhere near what we were doing last year this time, but it's starting. So like I say, the hope is there.
The Ministry of Tourism and Environmental Authority is expected to continue awarding the Safe Travel certificates to other hotels that comply with COVID-19 regulations next week. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Mbabane.
The Director of Health Services, Dr. Vusi Makakula, has praised local churches for embracing HIV self-testing as this will help government in its fight against HIV. The Director of Health Services said this during an interview with Eswatini TV in Mbabane.
Following the launch of the HIV self-testing by the Ministry of Health and other partners regarding HIV and AIDS issues last year, members of the public and churches seem to be happy about the HIV self-testing program since health workers have already started visiting churches to educate them about the HIV self-testing and the test kits. Director of Health Services in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Vusi Makakula, has commended the churches for embracing this initiative because it will assist the government in the fight against HIV and AIDS.
We've noticed that churches, that is where people are gathered together. People with like minds, sort of, people who worship together, people who may be together, who may give each other, support, are together in a church, under the church premises. We would like to thank Bafundisi and those who will be cooperating with us, that we will now be able to give these test kits, because you can now test yourself, and it's usually better when you are together. Birds of the same feather fly together.
FCI National Project Manager from the Church Forum, Begisisa Tsabetsa, says the working relationship between themselves and the Ministry of Health on HIV self-testing was started last year. Therefore, they are happy that the program has already started in many churches in the country so that no one is left behind in knowing his or her HIV status.
One of the things that we love is that through the distribution of HIV self-testing kits, Now, some brethren, they don't have to travel from where they are to the hospital just to test for HIV. So now they are able to screen for HIV at their worship places.
Sabetsa then conveyed his appreciation to PEPFAR for supporting and funding this initiative. Reporting, I'm Zodwa Dlamini with Mbonga Dube in Manzini.
58 cases of people diagnosed with malaria have been reported since July 2020 to date. Communications officer at the National Malaria Control Program, Gabin Hlengedfa, says malaria and COVID-19 symptoms have similarities that the public should be wary of. Therefore, it is crucial that they visit the nearest health facilities if they experience any of the symptoms, particularly because it is possible to contract both illnesses at the same time.
The malaria season is upon us, and as it stands, there are already cases that have been reported. Last year, a total of 372 cases of malaria were reported in the country, of which 215 were local. Communications officer at the Malaria Control Program, Gabi Ntlengedfa, says 58 people have been diagnosed with malaria in the country since July this year.
We are currently standing at 58 cases for the season. That is from July 2020 until October 19, I think. Yeah, we are at 58 cases. And then for last year, we ended the season, 2019-2020 season at 372 cases, of which 215 of those were local cases. So that means the person had not traveled anywhere but got malaria in Swaziland. Yes. So we are still aiming for zero. We hope by 2023, nobody will have malaria from inside Swaziland.
She urges Amaswati to not only prevent themselves from contracting coronavirus, but also practice preventative measures against malaria.
COVID-19 and malaria symptoms are overlapping. So sometimes one may mistake COVID-19 symptoms for malaria, which may have devastating results. So that is why we need to raise awareness as well. So that's why we will be intensifying our community activities.
She says the indoor residual spraying exercise has commenced in the Hoho region. The Lubombo region will be visited next, and also some areas in Manzini. She says the team is also visiting communities on purposes of sensitization and follow-ups on previous patients. Ntlengedfa says 5 people died last year due to malaria. Reporting, I'm Lungelele Makakula with Mbonga Dube in Babane.
The Public Accounts Committee says following concerns about the houses built by the Ma and Da company using modern technology, they saw it necessary for them to go and inspect the houses for themselves. This was said by the committee's chairperson, Pila Telezi, during a tour of the houses in Skupe, Lubombo Referral Hospital and Matata Fire Station.
The Public Accounts Committee toured houses constructed by Ma and Da using modern technology. The houses are located in Skupe, Lubombo Referral Hospital, and Matata's Fire Station. The committee's chairperson, Pilap Telezi, says as they continued with the tour, what they noticed was that the houses are now better than when the company started.
To look into the facilities that have been constructed by government. It was institutional housing at Skupe. Eswaka couldn't utilize the facilities. Then we have Lubombo Referral, which is a 104-bed institution that has been constructed, but it's still under construction, which we hope they've promised that it will be completed by the end of this month. Our intention was to see firsthand the quality of this new technology that is being used by Ma and Da, which has attracted a lot of concerns. So before we make any recommendations, we had to come and see it ourselves for us to make informed recommendations.
Buthelezi continued to say the committee will sit down and look further into this matter. Reporting for Eswatini TV News is Tembeli Hlemakojo with Temba Shabangu at Matata.
Director of Health Services Dr. Vuse Makakula says the validity of COVID-19 results for people who wish to travel to South Africa is now 14 days. He says this applies to people who will have produced negative results not more than 72 hours old, and they will produce these results when exiting and entering into the country, provided it is within the 14-day period.
This change was effective last week at the Ngwenya border after the Minister of Health in South Africa made an announcement. Dr. Vuse Makakula has confirmed this and says a few changes were implemented by the South African government and Eswatini was in agreement. He says Emaswati who wish to visit South Africa still have to produce negative COVID-19 results not more than 72 hours. And if they stay not more than 14 days in South Africa, they will be able to use the same results produced when departing on the day of their return in the country.
If you cross the border, going to our neighbors in South Africa or going to Mozambique, the requirement at the border for you to be allowed to get in is you must have tested negative in the past 72 hours or less. So you must have that evidence that you have tested. And the test is the PCR test. And it's the PCR test, not anything else, because the others maybe later may find that we'll be using them, but at the moment it's the PCR test. But then once you get into South Africa, or particularly South Africa, once you are inside, maybe you have a couple of other things to do, you need 2 or 3 more or 5 more days, then you remain within the 14 days. They will not be requiring you to then test again after every 72 hours. No, you remain within the 14 days, and then you can come back home without needing to be tested again.
Makakula says a person who will return home before the 14 days has elapsed and decides to go to South Africa again within the 14 days, that person will be obligated to take the test again before they are permitted to leave again. Reporting, I'm Lungelele Makakula with Mbangwa Dube in Babane.
The Human Trafficking Secretariat is strengthening the human trafficking and smuggling of people awareness policy of the country. The head of Secretariat, Nompumelele Kele, says this includes capacitating primary school pupils.
The Human Trafficking Secretariat has visited 2 schools around Babane. The head of Secretariat, Nompumelele Lukele, says they have also produced a song which will also be used to create awareness about human trafficking. Lukele added that the Secretariat will also produce and distribute pamphlets carrying human trafficking messages.
We are looking at strengthening awareness or increasing awareness on issues of trafficking in persons as well as smuggling of migrants. What we have done, critically speaking, is develop information, education and communication material, particularly material that will be circulated nationally, material that will be placed at key ports of entry, including the airport, as well as other strategic places where we normally see an influx of public receiving certain services. We are also looking at developing material which is targeting the youth, in particular school children. We have observed that children at primary school level, especially grade 7, has in their curriculum trafficking, and they needed to know what human trafficking is, child trafficking is, the difference between the two, as well as perhaps including smuggling of migrants. So we will be developing material specific to them.
The Kingdom of Eswatini continues to honor its obligation in accordance with international instruments such as the United Convention on Transnational Organized Crime. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Babane.
We will now take a look at the COVID-19 update from the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health has reported 8 new confirmed COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours. In a statement issued by the Minister for Health, Lizi Ngosi, a total of 242 results were received, out of which 8 people tested positive for coronavirus. The total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases to date is 5,788. The statement shows that there are 237 active cases, 7,420 87 have recovered, 116 have died, and 8 have been registered for care. Looking at the confirmed cases by region, Manzini region has 2,603 cases, Oho region has 2,182 cases, Lubombo region has 512 cases, and Shiselweni region has 491 cases of coronavirus. Let's continue with the news. Mangayane Town Board is worried about the non-functioning government filling station within the town because the structure adds to the number of idle buildings and plots, thus negatively impacting the development of the town. This was said by Mangayane Town Board Mayor Machaha Ngwenya during an interview with Eswatini TV.
Since Mangayane Town Board is in the process of developing the town in order to be one of the developed towns in the country, a number of government structures, including the non-functioning filling station, adds to the plots that are not developed, thus impacting negatively to the development of the town. Mangayane Town Board Mayor Machaha Ngwenya says the non-functioning of the filling station is negatively impacting to the development of the town. Central Transport Administration General Transport Manager Washington Khumalo has apologized to the town for the inconvenience caused by the closure of the government filling station.
Baqinisile basedolobheni eMangayane labakushoko nathi sesisukumile stabafuna abantu babe babili batoqhubeka bethe besikhuluma yona njengalesihlanu.
He also stated that the Central Transport Administration, with the help of the government, is working on hiring 2 personnel to replace the late petrol attendant and renovate the structure before the end of November. Khumalo then urged the affected parties to bear with the government until she finishes the hiring and the rehabilitation of the filling station. Reporting, I'm Zodwa Dlamini with Mozum Konda in Mangayane.
And in today's sports news, Dumsani Hadebe, who was a referee fitness instructor, says local referees seem to be ready for the start of the new season that will be commencing next month. Hadebe was speaking during a fitness test for referees who are from the Premier League and First Division that was held at the Mavuso Sport Center.
The new Premier League and National First Division season is expected to start on the 20th of November, which also calls for all match officials to be at an acceptable level of fitness to be able to judge properly during those games. The Premier League referees this past weekend assembled at the Mavuso Sports Center where they were taken through their paces, testing their level of fitness. The referees instructor, Dumsani Hadebe, says they look ready for the start of the season. Hadebe says what they have discovered is that the refs are ready for the start of the new season, but also feel like if they had 1 extra week to prepare, they would have done a lot better, and they will continue training every day till the season starts, because teams are already training, so the refs should also train as hard. Some of the referees say they did well during the test, but it was hard because they had stayed for a long period of time without some action, which made it difficult to complete the test, but they feel like they are ready for the start of the new season.
Fitness test yami, although bekunalama challenges ukuthi besolo ngistruglisha kujima ngalendlela ukuthi besolo kuvala-valekile ukuthi sikhona ekujima.
Sigijime kahle kakhulu letikhathi kube ngiletinhle.
Ngigijimile but abengekho to the standard lebekungivamisa ukuba kuso because of lesikhathi lengicishe ngasihlala solo kunale COVID and stuff, so it was not that much, but we managed to pull it through.
There were 48 referees that attended the test, and 6 of them were female refs. 3 males and 2 females failed the test. They will get an opportunity to make up for it on the 15th of November, where they will be able to take another test. Reporting for Eswatini Sports TV News, I am Patizo Msibi, Manzini.
The Eswatini Athletics Association President Zakhele Dlamini says they're still looking at ways in which they can be able to host marathons without breaking government's COVID-19 regulations. Dlamini says their medical committee is still busy sorting out the finer details of the matter.
Athletics is one of the sporting codes that the government allowed to return to action when the COVID-19 regulations were eased. 3 months later, marathons are still not hosted in the country. The president of the Athletics Association, Zakhele Dlamini, says they are still looking at ways in which they can be able to host the races safely.
Ngibuketa nangek-advisor ngilababuketa empilo besolo simayimile ngala ka-road running kuma-competitions akhona but-ke
Dlamini says under the advisement of the Minister of Health they decided to suspend the road running races, but now they have started with their own investigation through their medical committee, trying to find ways, and they will soon be meeting with teams and try to get lasting solutions on how they can return to the races safely.
Lama committee lamabili nje ne-technical committee sicabanga ukuthi-ke sitaba nemhlangano nje lomncane with ama-clubs sitobukisana lokuthi engabe nasifuna kuhosta event lekanjalo singenta kanjalo.
Dlamini says other countries who have allowed marathons to continue demand every athlete to take a COVID-19 test first before they can be allowed to compete, and in the country that would be difficult because the test is expensive to take. He concluded by saying they will announce as soon as they have new developments about the resumption of marathons. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizum Msibi with Fabrice Msonera Manzini.
We've come to the end of our news bulletin, but before we wrap up, let's take a quick recap of the headlines. Hilton Garden Inn and Royal Villas hotels have been awarded with Safe Travels certificates respectively. 58 people have been diagnosed with malaria since July 2020 to date. The validity of COVID-19 results for people who wish to travel to South Africa is now 14 days. Eswatini, that is all the news we had for you tonight. Up next is the weather forecast. Good night and God bless.
Simo selitulu nilethelwa baka MTN Business. Noma simo selitulu sinjani, MTN Business ikhona kusita ibhizinisi yakho.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Simo selitulu benilethelwa baka MTN Business. Noma simo selitulu sinjani, MTN Business ikhona kusita ibhizinisi yakho.
Everywhere you go, MTN.